There comes a point in every unconventional life when you realize that explanations are not clarifying your path, they are diluting it. You begin with enthusiasm. You try to help others understand what you're building, why you're choosing differently, why your timeline doesn't match theirs. You believe that if you just explain clearly enough, they will finally see the vision. But slowly, you notice something. They are not confused because you are unclear. They are confused because your life cannot be measured by the metrics they trust. And so you repeat yourself. You justify your decisions. You translate your intuition into language that feels acceptable, safe, reasonable. Until one day you feel it, a quiet exhaustion that does not come from the work itself, but from defending the work. This is the hidden cost of living a misunderstood life path. Not the uncertainty, not the solitude, but the constant pressure to explain a future that does not yet have visible proof. The truth is, some people are not waiting to understand you. They are waiting for you to return to what they recognize. And in that moment, you are faced with a choice. Continue explaining, or begin protecting your vision with silence. Before we dive into the first point, I want to invite you to subscribe to my channel, Soul Fuel. Here, you will learn how to protect your energy, cultivate discipline, and build an unconventional life that feels aligned to your inner truth. If you've ever felt drained trying to justify your choices to people who don't get it, this channel is your guide to mastering focus and reclaiming your creative power. Point 1. Silence protects the early vision. In the earlier stages of a life path, clarity is fragile. It is not fully formed, not fully visible, not yet validated by results. And because it is fragile, it is easily disrupted by doubt, opinions, and premature scrutiny. When you explain too soon, you invite external logic into an idea that is still being shaped internally. You begin defending something that hasn't even had time to grow roots. Silence in this phase is not secrecy. It is protection. It allows the vision to mature without being forced to prove itself before it is ready. A powerful real-life example of this comes from Steve Jobs. In his early 20s, Jobs made a series of decisions that confused nearly everyone around him. He dropped out of college, explored calligraphy classes that seemed unrelated to any clear career path, and immersed himself in creative and philosophical ideas rather than conventional business training. To outsiders, it looked scattered, unstable, irresponsible. People around him questioned his direction constantly. Why leave college? Why obsess over design details no one else cared about? Why build computers when established companies already dominated the industry? If Jobs had spent his energy explaining every unconventional choice, he would have been arguing from a future that did not yet exist. Instead, he focused quietly. He let curiosity guide him without needing to defend it. Years later, those very calligraphy classes influenced the typography and design philosophy that became a defining feature of the Macintosh. What looked irrational in the beginning became inevitable in hindsight. Silence gave his early vision room to breathe. It allowed experimentation without the burden of constant justification. And this is the first lesson. Not every stage of your path is meant to be understood in real time. Some stages are meant to be lived and only explained by the results that follow. Point 2. Explaining yourself drains creative energy. Every explanation is an energetic exchange. When you repeatedly defend your life choices to skeptical minds, you are not just speaking, you are negotiating with doubt. You begin tailoring your dreams into digestible versions. You simplify the complexity of your vision so it sounds practical, safe, acceptable. And slowly, without noticing, you shift from building your life to proving your life. This is how creative energy gets leaked, not through failure, but through endless justification. A striking example of this can be seen in the journey of J.K. Rowling. Before the world knew her as the author of a global phenomenon, Rowling was a single mother living on welfare, writing in cafes while raising her child. She had no guarantees, no publishing deal, and no external validation confirming that her work would succeed. Many people around her questioned the practicality of her focus. Why spend so many hours writing a fantasy story when financial stability was uncertain? Why not pursue something more predictable, more secure? Imagine if she had paused every day to explain her vision in logical terms that satisfied everyone's expectations. She would have had to defend a magical world that only existed in her imagination at the time. Instead, she conserved her energy. She wrote quietly. She kept refining the story even while facing multiple rejections from publishers. Each rejection could have triggered more explanations, more justifications, more attempts to convince others that the project was worth it. But she chose persistence over persuasion. Eventually, one publisher took a chance, then another, and the very story that once required explanation became a cultural landmark that needed no defense at all. Her energy stayed invested in creation, not in convincing. This is the second lesson. Your creative path demands more focus than explanation. Every minute spent defending your vision is a minute taken from building it. I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt drained from constantly explaining your life path to others? Comment the word focus below if this message resonates with you. Let's create a community that supports unconventional paths. Point 3. Outgrowing the need for external validation. At some point, discipline becomes less about effort and more about emotional independence. Because the deeper truth is this: the urge to explain yourself is often rooted in the desire to be reassured that you are not making a mistake. We want others to say, "Yes, this makes sense. Yes, you are on the right path. Yes, this will work." Their understanding feels like proof. Their approval feels like safety. But true discipline requires outgrowing this dependency. It requires trusting your direction even when it looks irrational to everyone else. Few lives illustrate this better than that of Frida Kahlo. Kahlo's art was deeply personal, surreal, and emotionally raw. At a time when artistic norms favored different styles, her work did not easily fit into conventional expectations. Many critics and observers initially struggled to categorize or fully understand her paintings. She painted pain, identity, culture, and inner experience with unapologetic intensity. Her work was not designed to be easily explained or universally accepted. It was designed to be honest. If she had diluted her expression to gain broader approval, her art would have lost the very essence that made it powerful. Instead, she continued painting exactly what she felt compelled to express, even when it was misunderstood or uncomfortable for viewers. Over time, the same deeply personal and unconventional style that puzzled audiences became the reason she was celebrated as one of the most distinctive artists in history. Her life demonstrates a profound shift. She stopped asking whether others understood her work and focused on whether her work was truthful to her inner experience. This is the third lesson. Maturity on a misunderstood path means releasing the need to be validated in real time, because the world rarely understands authenticity immediately. It recognizes it after it has fully formed. These three truths form the foundation of a disciplined, unconventional life. Silence protects the fragile beginning of a vision. Explaining drains the energy needed to build it, and outgrowing validation is what allows it to mature into something undeniable. From here, the path becomes quieter, but infinitely more powerful. Before we move into the next point, I want to pause and ask you something. Have you ever felt that no matter how clearly you explain your life choices, some people still refuse to understand you? Not because you're unclear, but because your path challenges what they believe is normal. If you've experienced that, let me know in the comments. Your experience matters here, and your story might help someone else feel less alone on their own misunderstood journey. Point 4. Let your results speak where explanations fail. There comes a stage in every unconventional path where words lose their power. Not because the vision is unclear, but because it is too early to be proven. At this point, explanations begin to feel repetitive. You say the same things in slightly different ways, hoping that eventually people will get it. But some people are not looking for understanding. They are looking for confirmation that you will eventually return to the familiar. This is where discipline deepens. Because real discipline is not just the ability to work consistently, it is the ability to keep working, even when no one fully understands what you are building. And history gives us a powerful example of this in the life of Nelson Mandela. For decades, Mandela stood firm in his vision for a free and equal South Africa, even when his beliefs were dismissed, criticized, and labeled unrealistic. Many people could not comprehend the depth of his conviction. Some believed compromise would be easier. Others believed the system he challenged was too powerful to ever change. He could have spent his energy explaining, arguing, persuading endlessly. But instead, he endured years of imprisonment, holding on to a vision that only he and a few others could fully see at the time. 27 years in prison is a long time to be misunderstood. During those years, there were no visible results, no immediate victories, no external validation proving that his sacrifice would lead to transformation. To many observers, it likely looked like a lost cause. Yet Mandela continued to cultivate his vision quietly, strengthening his resolve rather than weakening it through constant explanation. And when he was finally released, the results spoke with a force that explanations never could. His leadership and commitment to reconciliation helped reshape a nation and inspired the world. What once seemed unrealistic became historic. What once required defense became undeniable. This illustrates a crucial truth. When your work finally manifests, it will communicate more clearly than any explanation ever could. Until then, your responsibility is not to convince everyone. Your responsibility is to remain faithful to the process that will eventually make understanding inevitable. Because the most powerful validation is not verbal approval. It is visible transformation. And that is the fourth lesson. Let your results speak in the future, rather than exhausting yourself trying to be understood in the present. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to reflect on how much energy you've been spending explaining your life instead of live in it. You are not here to fit perfectly into other people's expectations. You are here to build a life that feels aligned with your inner vision, even when that vision is misunderstood at first. Remember, silence can protect your early ideas. Focus can preserve your creative energy. Emotional independence can free you from the need for validation, and consistent action will eventually speak louder than any explanations ever could. So let them question, let them doubt, let them misunderstand for now. Your path does not need to be fully understood today. It only needs to be lived with integrity and discipline. If you found value in this reflection and you want more content that strengthens your focus, protects your energy, and helps you walk an unconventional life path with confidence, then make sure you subscribe to the channel Soul Fuel. This is a space for those who are building quietly, growing intentionally, and trusting a vision that the world may not fully see yet. Stay disciplined, stay focused, and keep creating a life that will one day explain itself without words.